How we doing? Cool. If you're wondering why I usually come up here with the Bible and I look like I'm just winging it, I'm not. I lost my Bible the other day. Great pastor, right? Yeah, I mean, like Dylan said, Chelsea and I, my wife, I'm not gonna embarrass her, but she graduated with her master's this summer. Don't clap yet. No, don't clap yet. And she thought we were only celebrating her graduation weekend, but she don't know we're celebrating all summer. So in the least embarrassing way, I'm not drawing attention to her, but look back to that side of the room. Please give her the least embarrassing congratulations possible. Great. Yeah, my wife and I, we are honored to be a part of Church in Joplin. Love of our lives. They've got 31 years left of me until I retire at 60. Then it's going to be real good. What are we doing? Psalm chapter 133. Let's go there. Psalm 133. It's Sunday morning, so we're going to have to act like this is church still. Once you're there, let's stand up together. What this is what they call a song of ascents. This is what the Hebrew people would sing on Sunday morning on their way to church. So imagine you and your family, you just got up, you're late, you're rushing in the van, you're cussing each other out. You think, okay, we got to pump ourselves up for worship, turn on Christian music. This would be the Christian music that they play on their way to church on Sunday morning. So this is David writing, and he says, "Behold, look how good and pleasant it is when brothers, that's gender neutral, brothers and sisters dwell in unity. It's like the precious oil on the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore." Jesus, thank you for your word. Speak to us today. Amen. Go ahead and have a seat. When I struggled, there might be some of y'all that get this. When I was writing this a few weeks ago, the first title I thought to give it was named after the great theologian Queen Latifah, UNITY. But that's not what we're going with today. Help me preach this morning. Tag someone next to you and say, friend, let's stay together. Tag someone else. Friend, let's stay. Now, if you're next to your partner, go ahead and sing the rest of the song to him. I am so in love. Stop. So check this. My wife and I, we got married. I shared this with the youth the other day. We got married in 2018 and initially lived in a loft downtown in Joplin and moved to a house. No one told us what it actually meant to own a house and what that constituted. Our education system taught us Pythagorean's theorem. Our education system taught us conjunction junctions function. Our education system taught us how to say, may I go to the restroom instead of can I? But it never taught us what entailed owning a house. So we learned by experience. For instance, here's what I didn't know. What I didn't know about going from 6th floor loft to down on the ground in a house with a backyard with nature is that there's actually nature. So check this. I didn't mow my lawn our whole first year, but we paid somebody to do it. Then after, Chelsea's like, you need to start mowing that lawn. So we got this lawnmower, and she's got a garden way in the back because she's perfect. And so I'm mowing the lawn, and I get next to the garden, and this stick that I accidentally ran over pops up. And I was like, oh, it's a stick. I should have moved it. Then that stick's mouth opened. Then that stick's neck kicked back. That stick's eyes turned to me. I can't prove it, but I think the stick said, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want, but I got a particular set of skills. And when I get from under this thing, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna kill you. So I'm like, say less. I turn around, quick, you've never seen a person run this fast. Turn around, I hurdle my dog Tank, I stiff arm my dog Roscoe, I bust into the door. All Chelsea sees is a black blur in the living room. Get to the corner and I'm curled up and she said, what are you doing? And I said, there's a Demogorgon outside. Stranger things. And being the man of the house that I am, I'm like, okay, I gotta protect my family. So I'm like, Chelsea, go get it. That's not a lie. So Chelsea, this is my wife. So she's walking and I'm back here like, and she finally is like, where is it? I'm like, don't you see the devil over there? And she gets to it and she says, Jaron, it's a garter snake. I'm sure that when Chelsea got to that snake, it didn't live up to its hype. It was a lot less than what I had made it out to be. Why do I tell y'all that? I don't know. I just wanted to have therapy this morning. How often, be honest, we're in church now, be honest. This is a safe space. How often in doing this church thing, you've entertained the thoughts, this ain't what they hyped it up to be. This ain't what I thought it'd be. I'm not claiming to diagnose the full problem, but I am gonna diagnose a part of the problem, and I'm positive that a part of the reason our life in the church seems less than what we thought it would be, and even less than what God said it would be, is because of how we've approached it. I'm willing to submit that a part of the approach that we've adopted and been taught in approaching this church thing has set us up from failure from day one. So what I want to do today, I want to propose a different way, a better way to approach church life so that we can be able to know all that God has for us. Somebody asked me, what's that way? I'm glad you asked. David, he pulls up and he says, behold, look, pay attention, turn around. Here's your better way. What's the better way, David? He says, when brothers and sisters dwell in unity. Brothers and sisters, he's specifically talking about the people of God. So he says, look at God's people dwelling in unity. Right. Now we've got to get a working definition of what unity is. Check this. Unity is different St. Louis blues players playing different positions, all going together for the same goal. Unity is different members of the Temptations singing different chords in different, do you sing in chords? Singing different volumes, different tones, different lyrics, all the same song together. Unity, check this, unity is not sameness, it's togetherness. So unity is not sameness. It's a person who leans politically left, they can be Christians, and someone who leans politically right, following Jesus together. Unity is a black family and a single white mother walking together. Unity are some of you who y'all really like teaching on Sunday morning, and some of y'all come to church because y'all want to see some Holy Ghost fire and everything turn up. It's them on mission together. It's not sameness. It's togetherness. We've got to let this seep into our soul, because if we mislabel unity as sameness, we'll end up making conformity to our image the price tag that someone has to pay to come into our community and relationship with us. I got this from Mary Chambers. Shout out to Mary Chambers right here. The goal is not for them to be made into your image. That's not the point. They're supposed to conform to Christ. conformity to you is not unity. So David, what's unity? It's togetherness. Behold, look at God's people living together. David, what's so good about this? He says, there it is. It's good. You'd shout if you knew what good meant. I went to 4.5 years of Bible college just for this one word study. Check this. Good, it means three things, at least three things. Number one, good means moral uprightness. So David says, being together with God's people is the good thing to do. So y'all remember being younger, going to daycare and Sunday school, and they teach y'all what's good and right and what's bad and wrong. So they'd make you give another kid the train and be like, it's good to share. I grew up in a Christian daycare run by my aunt. So every time before a meal, they'd have us sit down and say, God is great, God is good. Let us thank him for. So y'all know what I'm talking about. And then they'd be like, it's good to pray. And I'd be like, why is it good to pray? And they say, because you'll choke if you don't pray on it. David, he's playing the part of a Sunday school teacher telling you the good and right thing is to be together with God's people. Yes. Listen, we're inundated and immersed in a culture that elevates exiting and autonomy to virtues. It's a virtue to exit. You're hearing messages that says, if it doesn't serve all your needs, just walk away. Yeah. I know your spouse isn't giving you the love drug anymore, and it's not, that excitement doesn't match the person at work you've made a connection with, so the good thing to do is just walk away. Yeah. That hit too hard. Exiting has been made a virtue. Not just exiting, autonomy has been made out to be a virtue. Right. The number one message you're hearing right now is look inside, figure out who you are and what you want. And if anyone interferes within that, they've contaminated everything and you need to start over. Here it is. The best thing for you to do is what's good for you. That's been made out to be a virtue. So in this society where exiting and autonomy have been made out to be virtues, listen to one of God's first moral statements in the Bible, Genesis chapter 2. It is not good for you to be alone. You want to do the right thing? You want to do the good thing? The best place might be to start by being together with God's people. So it's moral uprightness. It's not just that. It's also practical usefulness. Good means practically useful. I mean, we live in the 21st century. This is the age of technology. We've made a lot of technological advances because it's useful. I was on a plane with a guy this week, and he had just come back from Tel Aviv. And he said, when I was younger, a trip to Tel Aviv would have taken 6 months. And I just did it in 2 days. The practical usefulness of that airplane. Here's another one. We wanted to be able to have confrontation without it being face to face. And so the technology we created, Facebook, is practically useful, right? David says unity is practically useful. Unity is a sort of divine technology, if you will. I read this book earlier this year. It blessed me. This man named Kelly Kapic, he said this. He said, the only way for you to fulfill all of the calls of God is together. Yeah. Did you know it's impossible for you to obey Jesus alone? That's not, I'm not exaggerating. Did you know it's impossible for you to obey Jesus alone? Yeah, that's good. Did you know that in the New Testament, when it has a command, the you is read as y'all? You know when you're reading your Bible and it says you go do something and you make a plan that doesn't include other people, that's the wrong plan. The only way to disciple them babies is together. The only way to do good works in a city is together. The only way to fight sin, check me, is together. So practical usefulness, and here's the last one. Good means aesthetically beautiful. It looks good. Wow. Being together with God's people looks good. My grandparents, their generation, they used to say, people eat with their eyes. Y'all ever heard that? Yeah. You don't even got to be hungry, but you see something on a billboard, a Big Mac or something that looks real good, and you're like, I think I want that. It looks real good. This is what Jesus says unity does. Jesus says, in their unity, in my people's unity, the world will know that I came and they'll come in. Yeah. Listen, now of all times, people are hungry for God and a place to belong. Amen. And when these people outside of the church see the people in the church living together, it will look good to them and they'll say, I want that. But we've spent the past 4 years arguing with each other on whether we should pray. 2 summers ago, we had a golden opportunity to say, look, we know a democratic society cannot work out racial unity, but Jesus can. And we argued over whether justice was a word Christians should use. The world needs to see a church that's together, because when the world sees a church that's together, they will say, I need that. I want that. I can be a part of that. It's good for us to live together. It's good for us to live together. David says it's good for us to live together. David says it's good for us to live together, but I've only been doing this church pastor thing for a few years, and one of the things that hit me early on was we say it's good, but there's a disparity between what David's saying and how things play out. A few years ago, I was talking with a small group leader in our church, one of the people who we consider pastorally responsible for at least 15 people at this time. And I ran into him at a coffee shop, and he said, so what's the church, y'all, thinking about doing in the future? Embedded within that was the assumption that the church did not include him. This was one of the people on the short list of leaders in our church. And his framework for church included the paid staff and maybe the elders. David says it's good for God's people to be together, but apparently word on the streets, for whatever reason, is that the church consists of paid staff and some elders, while everybody else is an attender. Maybe they like it and they become an investor. Maybe they like it and become a volunteer, as if it's no different than some nonprofit, maybe a philanthropic one, maybe the Republican Party. And David said, for some reason, we've gotten this idea that the church is them and not all of us. So here's what we've got to cultivate. I'm talking to the leaders in the room now. We've got to cultivate environments and communicate messages, verbally and non-verbally, that perpetuates and solidifies the message that all of us are a part of this thing. The church is not me and you are an attender. I am not a business and you are not a consumer. I don't have a product that you just get on Sundays. No, we are in this together. Your pastors are going to tell you this when y'all get home, but hear it from me first. It is good for you to be in this with us together. It's good for you to be in this with us together. So David says it's good for God's people to be together. It's good, but David, he even pushes it. He says it's more than good, it's life and death. Did you hear what he said? He said in unity, God commands the blessing of life in togetherness. So life, this is the concept of what Jesus calls eternal life. And it's not just quantity, but it's quality. So it's not that you live long, you live good. And David says God commands the blessing of good life as God's people live together. And then he puts 2 pictures on it. He says one is Aaron and his robe. So in the Old Testament, Aaron, he was one of the first priests. And God, he poured oil on Aaron to signify anointing and blessing. But God has this real specific commandment in Exodus, I believe, where he says, Moses, you make sure Aaron has them clothes on. Aaron and his robe are going to be anointed. So here's the picture. Aaron and his robe are 2 distinct things, but it's only when they were together that God poured out the blessing on them. Wow. Y'all are all distinct, and you know when God says, I'm going to pour out the blessing? As soon as you get together. So that's one picture. And then another picture is Mount Hermon and Mount Zion. Mount Hermon was probably the highest mountain in the region. Mount Zion was probably one of the smallest. Mount Hermon, it got all of the dew because it was like, look, it's in the clouds. Of course they get dew. But Mount Zion got the same level of dew every morning. And so the people of Israel, they ended up interpreting that as God is supernaturally directing dew, which is a sign of blessing in the Old Testament. God is supernaturally directing blessing onto this mountain that ain't much. Look, I know you might think your church ain't much. I know you might think you ain't much. I'd agree, I'm not much either. But God says, even though you ain't much, I will supernaturally direct blessing on you. Togetherness is the blessed place. That's where God said, I'm commanding life. I thought about 30 different ways to paint a picture of what it looks like for God to command the blessing of life onto togetherness. The first thing I thought, which I ended up not going with, was to pull up like 8 studies that I've read of people concluding, or at least coming to really strong guesses that good relationships are more conducive to a long life than exercise. I thought to do that, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to show you some of this stuff I've learned or I've seen personally. 2018 or 19 or so, some young adults at Christ Church, some of us college age, we went to go volunteer at this place called Water Gardens. And we got to Water Gardens, and there was this cat across the street getting berated by somebody else, looked absolutely defeated. So about 5 of us saw him, and we were like, we gotta do something. I don't know what to do, we're gonna have to do something. So homeboy, he comes in for dinner, and the 5 of us, I thought it was real annoying. It probably was annoying and obnoxious. But the 5 of us, we gathered around him, sat with him, nobody knowing what to do. And you just, what's your name? What's your story? You looked kind of sad. What's going on? End up doing a makeshift church service. You know, I saw that man a year later in the gym, and he ran up to me and he was like, you remember me? I was like, no. And he was like, you and some friends, y'all came to Water Gardens and y'all were talking to me. He said, I got saved that night. We had no clue what we were doing, but we were together. And God said, I'm commanding life, salvation in that situation. Okay, one more. So I do this traveling and speaking thing. I have not as much anymore. So a few years ago, I was in Kentucky at a big student event and ran into this kid. His name was B. And he wanted to come up and talk to me. Brandon, I called him B. His name was Brandon. And he came up to talk to me. He's like, can I share with you my story? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, 2 years ago, I started going to youth group. And I was like, cool, glad you're in youth group. And he said, 6 months after I started going to youth group, my parents got a divorce. And I was like, ooh. And he was like, I ain't never struggled with anxiety and depression like I did through that period of time. And I was like, bro, you look happy right now. You got a glow on you. You got a smile on your face. What's going on? And he said, my church was there with me every night. They were the comfort that I needed. They were the joy that I needed. They were the strength that I needed. God gave that boy life through that church. Probably had no clue. Probably weren't trained professionals, but check this, they were together. And God gave that boy life. How many of you have experienced the blessing of God through his body as they were together? Some of y'all got healed yesterday, and it wasn't when you were sitting in your room alone. It was when the people of God came together to put hands on you. Some of you have had real church hurt, and you didn't heal from that hurt alone. It was in togetherness with God's people. I'm saying God blesses you together. Check this. I don't know what your fall is going to look like. But I'm saying as you plan that fall, plan to be together with God's people. I don't even know what the rest of your summer is going to look like. Plan to be together with God's people. I know you're planning some trips. Take a vacation. Please take a vacation. Come back to church. I know your small group's taking it off. Good, cool. Everybody needs a break. Still go hang out with somebody. Call somebody. Don't check out in the summer because we want the blessing. David, I want the blessing. David, I need that blessing. I want what you're talking about. What do we got to do to get together? That's the big question. What do we got to do to be together? That's a real big question right now. I had a really close friend recently. He's not a Christian, far from a Christian right now. And he's a part of a group that asked him, how can you be friends with anyone who thinks differently than you? That's the common sentiment of the day right now. So it seems as if togetherness is the impossible task. What is our pathway to togetherness? First, I think you got to know that togetherness comes from God. You know how we understand God. Father, Son, Spirit, three persons, perfect unity. God by nature is together. And it's this God in Genesis who says, let us create man in our image. A part of the image of God, what it means to be in the image of God is to be together. C.S. Lewis, he actually says, sidebar, he actually says the only way you can be fully human is together. By the way, the hyper-autonomy and the hyper-individualism that you're hearing is an attack on your humanity. So it comes from God. We obviously broke it, but this same God who created togetherness recreated togetherness. Came in flesh, died. Paul in Ephesians chapter 2, he says this. He says that Jesus united Jews and Gentiles into one people when in his own body, that's together language. On the cross, he broke down the wall of hostility. That's together language. That separated us. He made peace, togetherness between Jews and Gentiles by creating in himself one new people, togetherness from the two groups. Here it is, together as one body. Christ reconciled togetherness, both groups to God by means of his death on the cross, and our hostility towards each other was put to death. What's Paul saying? Paul's saying Jesus, he created a cross-shaped spiritual togetherness, vertical togetherness, and a horizontal togetherness. He brought you together with God and with people. Paul in Ephesians, he calls this spiritual unity, meaning the same spirit that's on Jesus is now on you and is now on all of us, therefore making us all one. So Jesus, the picture he uses for this is a vine and a branch. He says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. By nature, this branch and that branch are one plant because they're a part of the same vine. Okay, here's another one. Jubilee, y'all heard this recently, this story. I told y'all I used to have a track phone, right? Y'all know what a track phone is. Don't act fake. So I got a track phone for Christmas, and I think the 7th or 8th grade. And my brother and sister, they got a toy landline phone. And my mom called me on my track phone with my 5 minutes and wanted to talk to my brother and sister. Do y'all remember Napster and ringtones and stuff? I'm super off track. Okay, I wasted all of my minutes on ringtones when I first got it. Some of y'all have no clue what I'm talking about, you high schoolers. So my mom called me and wanted to talk to my brother and sister, genuinely wanted to talk to them. And they would not take the phone. I'm like, Mom wants to talk to you. And they're like, no. I'm like, you need to talk to Mom. And they were adamant on picking up their stupid toy landline phone and shouting at her. And I'm like, you smart person. That's not real. They were convinced that the landline, the plastic toy landline, was real, and the connection of the track phone was not real. They were convinced that the seen connection of the toy landline was more real than the unseen connection of the track phone, but they didn't know that the unseen connection of the track phone is more real than the seen connection of the toy landline. How often do we live as if the seen connection of your skin color is more real than the unseen connection of the spirit, but when in reality, the unseen connection of the spirit is the most real thing about the group people in this room. Listen to me. If the Spirit is on you, you are fundamentally now one with Jesus and his people. So check this. Unity is a spiritual reality to be lived in, not an ideal to be pursued for the church. We have a heads up on the rest of the world. Every other community is trying to create and pursue unity. And Jesus says, I made it, you just got to learn to live in it. We don't have to create unity. Listen to me, this is important for churches. This is important for churches. I might step on a boundary right now. We cannot construct our own unity in our own local communities. This is what I told Christ Church a few weeks ago. I said, what's not going to happen is myself and the other elders, we will not go in a room over there, come up with a 10-year vision and call everyone to align and unify around that. What we cannot do is pick out all kinds of things that we remember from our past and are trying to avoid and unify around avoiding the past. We cannot unify around common interest and past pain and preference. No, listen. Jesus, 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 only Jesus, nothing but Jesus. We cannot create our own community, our own unity. Jesus already did it. Look at what Dietrich Bonhoeffer says. Look at what he says. This is in Life Together. Some of y'all have read it. He says, our community with one another consists solely in what Christ has done to the both of us. This is true not merely at the beginning when you first got saved, as though in the course of time something else were to be added to our community. It remains so for all the future and to all eternity. I have community with others, and I shall continue to have it only through Jesus Christ. The more genuine and deeper our community becomes, the more will everything else between us recede, and the more clearly and purely will Jesus Christ and his work become the one and only thing that is vital between us. We have one another only through Christ, but through Christ we do have one another wholly and for all eternity. That dismisses once and for all every clamorous desire for something more. One who wants more than what Christ has established doesn't want Christian brotherhood. He's looking for extraordinary social experience, which he hasn't found elsewhere. He's bringing muddled and impure desires into the Christian brotherhood. Just at this point, Christian brotherhood is threatened most often at the very start by the greatest danger of all, the danger of being poisoned at its roots, the danger of confusing Christian brotherhood with some wishful idea of religious fellowship, of confounding the natural desire of the devout heart for community with the spiritual reality of Christian brotherhood. He turned the next page, and I'm done after this. He says, those who love their dream of a Christian community, check this. Those who love their dream of a Christian community more than they love the Christian community itself become destroyers of that Christian community, even though their personal intentions may ever be so honest, earnest, and sacrificial. God hates this wishful dreaming because it makes the dreamer proud and pretentious. Those who dream of this idolized community demand that it be fulfilled by God, by others, and by themselves. They enter the community of the Christians with their demands set up by their own law and judge one another and God accordingly. It's not we who build, but Christ who builds the church. Whoever is mindful to build the church is surely well on the way to destroying it, for he will build a temple to idols without wishing or knowing it. We must confess he builds. We must proclaim he builds. We must pray to him and he will build. Listen, he's saying, I have already created it. And the minute you make your dreams and your ideals the blueprint, you start to destroy what I did. Yeah. Listen, I say this in love, and I've had to go through this myself. I say this in love. Let your dreams die. There's an old Greek mythology where a dude, he never found a wife because he had this statue that he fell in love with of who he thought his wife should be and never found a wife. Let the statue die. Because Christ has already given you something complete. That's good news to me. He already built it. He already built it. He already built it. Let me tell you about black people and haircuts. Hard shift, right? So if you ain't know this, if you didn't know this, just traditionally, historically, the haircut has been our thing. It's my sense of strength, my sense of suave. It's like Samson, but without Delilah. I got a good girl. Yeah. And so I can't just be out here getting cut by anybody. I can't just be walking into anybody's supercut saying, give me a number 2. It don't work like that. It don't work like that. It's got to be a special barber in a special environment with some special clippers and a special kind of skill. So in my hometown, I didn't have to worry about it because we was everywhere. But then I moved to Joplin, Missouri. I kid you not. I went 2 years without a hair. It was bad. I lost weight because my haircut wasn't good, dude. It was bad. And so I'm going around struggling, looking like a wolf, just walking around bad. And then we're sitting in the locker room after basketball practice one day, and one of my teammates, Kyle, he was like, hey, what you doing after practice? I was like, probably go sit in my dark room again, dude. I don't know. And he was like, come ride with me. And I was like, cool. So he drives me down this street to this street in Joplin called Maiden Lane, and we pull into this shopping center, and I see this sign that says Reed's Barber. And I was like, could it be, Lord? And he walks me in, and it's a barber shop for us. Check this. Mike ain't just a barber, he's a pastor. So I'm getting a haircut and hands laid on me at the same time. I needed a place where I could receive a haircut, and Mike built it. Reed's Barbershop, I thank God for that. Some of y'all can relate. You can't just be eating anybody's fresh produce. So somebody made a farmer's market. You needed a place to get fresh food, so somebody built it, a farmer's market. Here's what I'm saying. We needed, thank you. We needed a place where, I've got like 3 minutes left.
Oh, sorry.
Nah, we'll suffer. Y'all needed a place to get fresh produce, and someone created it. The farmer's market, we needed a place where we could experience God's blessing of life. Yeah. And Jesus created it. Yeah. So y'all, flip it. Y'all saw that movie where Kevin Costner starts hearing things? If you build it, they'll come. And then he comes across the magical black man, James Earl Jones, and they end up deciding, that's a real movie role. And then come back to church. And then they discover that what they're talking about is the baseball field. And Kevin built the baseball field, and all the greats came. People from all across the country came. His daddy came. He built it, and they came. I just want to take a moment to be the person talking to people who want unity, who want blessing, who want more of this church thing than you've had before, to tell you Christ built it. And his invitation for you right now is to come. Have you heard the work of how he built it? Have you heard the story? Divinity clothed himself in full humanity. His work site was the earth, and he stepped into it through the womb of a woman he created. He put a wood beam on his back, climbed up a hill, climbed up on that beam, took 2 nails in his hands, 6 hours of blood, 6 hours of sweat, 6 hours of tears. At the end of the night, he said, I'm finished. Laid down in a grave on Friday, laid down in a grave on Saturday, laid down in that grave on Sunday. Early Sunday morning, that sun got up before the sun rose. And when he got up in victory, enmity between God and man fell down in defeat. When he got up in victory, enmity between man and man fell down in defeat. He built a place where we could be together. He built a place where we could receive life. He built a place where you could receive joy. He built a place where you could believe blessing. Just take a second and say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your life. Thank you for your death. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. He built this place. So here's all he tells us to do. Make every effort to preserve the unity and the bond of peace. Let me say it in Marvin Gaye's language. Let's stay together. You know what that word every effort means? Every effort. Do whatever you got to do for us to stay together. Some of us, that might mean change your perspective on this church thing. It is not a product. It is not primarily an organization to which you are a consumer or a subscriber. It is you. Leaders, we might have to be a little bit more critical of the frameworks and the languages and the practices we are adopting that work from the outside world, lest we accidentally communicate things to our people that are counterproductive to togetherness. It might look like changing your language. It might be real healthy for you just to start saying we. Might be real helpful. Change your behaviors, engage, act together. Here's one. Engage in conflict resolution. You know what I've learned? Spiritual warfare looks a lot like saying sorry. Spiritual warfare looks a lot like saying, I forgive you. Let's stay together. Band, come up here, make this a real spiritual moment or something. Here's what I want to do. I want to, before we leave, before you go home, I just want to take a moment. Ask the Father, what is it for me? What are you asking me to do right now to stay together? Who do I got to talk to? What do I got to let go of? How do I got to start talking? What does it mean for me right now to make every effort to stay together? Because here's what I know. As we stay together, we'll experience the blessing. Let's just take a moment. Father, what do you have for us? What are you saying to us? What's it look like for us to stay together? Point the person out. Who do we need to invite? Who do we need to reach out to? Who do we need to include? What do I need to get over? What do I need to let go of? What do I need faith for to forgive? Where's the bitterness at? What do I need strength to persevere through? Where have I been entertaining an exit? Planning an exit plan because I'm just a little irritated. What do we got to do, Father?